Welcome, 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 everybody. It is April. It's the end of the month, and that means one thing. We're back here live with the Outdoor Showcase presented by the East Tennessee Fishing Show. I'm Mike Delvisco. Over on the other side there is Sheila Bunch, and we have a really cool show for you tonight. Sheila, how are you?
I am wonderful, and I am so excited about having Wayneo on the show tonight, along with Shane with Enigma Fishing. Um, they've always had some great products, and I've noticed that both of them have a lot of new products since last time I've been on their website.
Yes.
So that was pretty neat.
Absolutely. And then to end the show, we have Mr. Ken Duke, probably one of my all-time favorite guys to chat about everything. He knows like a little bit about everything, but he knows an awful lot about the history of bass fishing, the history of fishing tackle, and virtually, if you want to know something, he's the guy who you go ask. He is the editor-in-chief of Fishing Tackle Retailer magazine, but he actually used to be the editor of Bassmaster magazine too. So he and I go back a long way. He's a fun guy to talk with. I don't know what we're going to chat about. Maybe a little bit about everything. I like to talk about the fishing industry and bass fishing in general. We'll see what he's got to say.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Perfect. And then I know you have some exciting news, but here's what we're going to do. We're not going to let it out of the bag right now. We want people to watch. We'll do it when you and I kind of recap things at the end. We'll kind of tell them a little bit about what's going on for the future and what we got in store and some exciting news.
All right, that sounds like I agree with that, but I'm going to try to be quiet, and I'll tell everybody at the end.
Perfect. Awesome, Sheila. Anything else before we get our first guest on? I know you and we were talking with him backstage, and we're excited for this guy.
Well, and you do know that Wayne was one of the first ones that started a bass tournament in Tennessee.
I didn't know that until you told me, and that's really interesting. He sent me a picture of him from like 1968 in Tennessee, with just some great history of what went on back then. And, I didn't start quite that early. It was about the late 70s. So he's got, probably 10 or 12 years on me with this bass fishing tournament stuff. So I'm interested to see what he's got to say, as well as seeing what he's got for baits too, because he's got a ton of stuff.
Right. So ask him a little bit about how the bass tournaments were ran back then. Because, a couple of weeks ago, we had Jimmy Houston on, and he said something about how the bass tournaments have changed since then. So it sounds like we need to sort of go back to the way it used to be.
Yes, I like that. You and I have talked about that a lot about, I think a lot of the younger fishermen out there need to understand a little bit about the history of what went on and, what happened 40 years ago, 45 years ago, 30 years ago. And it's horribly interesting stuff. I love it. And I lived through 4 decades of it. And I'm interested in the stuff that even happened prior to that. So we'll get a little bit out of Wayne and a whole bunch out of Ken. We'll see where we go from there.
All right. That sounds good to me.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much. We'll see you here in a little bit later, Sheila. Right now, we're going to get on a guy that I've known for quite a few years, and when I first met him, he wasn't tinkering around with baits and building things. At least I don't think he was. If he was keeping it quiet. He wasn't sharing any with his buddy Mike. And he's been up here at the house, and we've talked about bass fishing and electronics and all kinds of things. And he goes back farther than I go in this sport. And I'm really honored and privileged to welcome my buddy Wayne Bettis, Wayneo's Custom Baits, here live on the Outdoor Showcase presented by the East Tennessee Fishing Show. Friday night, we're live. Wayne, how are you?
If I was any better, Mike, I just don't really know what I would do. I'm doing great. We got through the bad weather last night here. I'm in Camp Creek, Tennessee, and 15 years ago we had a major tornado come through our hometown, and or our home community rather, and devastated 114 homes. So every time I see this weather, it always concerns me, and I think we all need to remember our friends and fellow fishermen and all the citizens down in Alabama and Georgia. It's very special to me now since I actually lived through it.
Absolutely. And, this is the time of year when, that stuff comes up, and you need to just be aware of it, not from just a fishing standpoint, but, from everything. So
That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But great to have you on. I know we've talked about this, and it's finally here. We're live. I want to see what you got. I'm sitting here looking at your website right now, and I'm looking at the shop page, and I see I can't count how many baits that you make. And I guess for people that are new to your baits, you have your own series of baits, but do you also custom paint stuff? Like if some guy comes to you with a handful of these or a box full of those, will you paint those baits too, or are you strictly focusing on your own baits?
Well, years ago when I first started, Mike, I did do some custom painting, and on a very rare occasion, I'll do that now, but it requires a tremendous amount of work to redo a bait. Take a lot of pride in what I do, and if I can't get it really neat, I just don't want to do it. It's easy to just spray over the top of something, but that don't mean it'll last. It may look good for a little while, so I got away from doing custom painting on other people's lures, but I still do custom painting on my blanks or on the customer's blanks if they have them.
Cool. And I think that's a good distinction to make too, because we want people to come in there and see what you've got for your baits, and you've got a ton of them. I was actually sitting there, I've seen a lot of guys doing crankbaits and lipless baits, because that's the hot thing right now, because that's what they're eating. But I was sitting there looking at some of your topwater baits, because it's not going to be long. We've got teased here a little bit the last couple of days with, high 60s, 70 degrees. The water's probably creeping close to 60. And anytime that happens, you may see old Mikey with a topwater in his hand.
Oh yeah, that's it's very well. I used to think that anytime above 50 degrees, you could start thinking some top water, but obviously the warmer it gets, the quicker the season basically comes in for top water. We're kind of low on the website right now for top water, but we've got a wide range of lures, Mike, that anything from top water to 25 feet deep. And so we have a wide range of lures that will allow you any type of the season, any time of the year, to get baits that will produce fish for you. And, I used to fish myself quite a bit before I had some health issues and had to quit. And so now this is what I do to stay connected to the profession. And I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing people take these baits and go out and catch fish on them. And we've got guys, and some of them, that are on our pro staff. Some of them will be fishing tomorrow on Douglas, one in particular, I know. And we've got probably a dozen people that I'm aware of using our baits tomorrow on Douglas. So, it's a fun business to be in.
Absolutely. And it's rewarding, I'm sure. And I don't make baits. I use a lot of them, but I don't make baits. And I know that, it's got to be, it's kind of like if you can associate it, like when I'm doing a seminar and I tell somebody about, a particular technique, tactic, a bait, and then they send me a letter or an email, a month from now, say, hey, that tip you gave me or that bait you told me about, help me catch my biggest fish. And I'm sure you get letters from people and emails and comments and texts from guys saying, hey, and I see them too. You look at Facebook and, a lot of the guys that I know, too, and they're posting, and there's a Wayneo's custom baits bait in the fish's mouth, and they're praising how good your stuff is.
Well, we have, we do it just I say a little different than what most people that I know. Number one, and you know this, we've got several guys out there that give me information on a regular basis. Matter of fact, I had a conversation last night with one night before last, and we try to paint our baits to match what's going on in that particular season. If you see any new colors come out on our website, it's reason it is on there is because somebody is catching fish on it. And so we kind of tailor what's going on at the particular time and do the painting for that particular time of the year. And so that's a little bit unique. And one other quick thing that we do that I like and really like about it, we start obviously with a 2-piece plastic blank, and of course put the paint on it, get it all ready to go. We put 80-pound stainless steel rings on it. There's no point in buying a bait and a good hook and put a weak ring on it, but we put a heavy duty ring on it. And the big thing that I like, and I did it for myself, is I coat it with 2-ton Devcon epoxy. I could spray it a lot quicker with clear coat, but clear coat comes off. It doesn't help seal the lure. And those lures are heated together is what holds them together, the seals them. And this epoxy just adheres to that and makes one piece out of it. So if you're out there fishing and you know this and you got a hot lure and it's going and you bump a rock and bust it, your day's over if you don't have another one. So we want to make a good durable lure on top of making a good looking lure.
Yeah. So do you have something hiding behind there? A couple of baits you can show us? What's the hot?
Well,
I want to know what the hot deal is right now.
I've got about 1,000 down in the shop, but I've got a couple here that we just finished up. I'll tell you real quick, and you know this, but some people I'm sure that hasn't seen anybody do custom painting don't really understand how it works, but I'm going to hold up. This is what I start with. It's a clear piece of plastic. It's molded together in the middle. It's got weights. This is about like an XD6. And the result of that, hopefully it turns out to be something like this. And, I vary the colors but that's kind of what we start with, where we go with it. Here's another one in that same style of lure that's very popular. And I'll say this, if you remember, and you remember some of these, you're going to see an awful lot of colors on our website that you haven't seen in years. I rarely ever paint a color that is popular at that time of year that a commercial manufacturer makes. I go back, this color here is an old color. And if you remember, that was very popular at one time, and it's still popular today if you use it, catch fish. But also, we've got lipless swim baits or lipless baits. The rattle trap type bait, we call it the rattler. We've got what we call the red eye rattler. This is what we call the shad roe. It favors a shad. And that's just 2 or 3 that I had laying here on the desk that I could show you. But you can go on our website. It's waynos.com, WAYNEOS without the apostrophe.com. And you can scroll through and see over 1,000 different color combinations and different types of lure. One thing I do want to mention about that website, each lure we have is unique. It's virtually impossible to get a lure exactly alike by hand painting it. We don't do it with a machine. It's all hand done. And so every lure has its own unique style, so to speak. It may have different colored eyes. It may have a orange throat with a yellow belly. The next one may have a solid yellow belly. So every one is individual, has an individual serial number, and they may look the same. They may have the same colors on the side, but there's some difference in every one of them, and it may be minor. So when you order one, you only get the one you see, and there's only one of those in stock. So some people get that a little confused, and they want to order 6 of this one. That's not going to happen. And one of the reasons it didn't, fishermen in particular. And, what you see is what you get. If you see the picture of the on the website, when you order, that's exactly the lure you get.
Cool. That's awesome stuff for people to know. And I think that's pretty cool too, because as well as I do, you'll get one that's, and I don't know why, a bass reacts to a certain color or just certain things in a certain way, but you'll get one bait that is kind of unique and it's got one little variation. And that's the one that, and I don't know if it's confidence for the guy throwing it. I think that might be more to the case that, this bait's got, just a little bit darker chartreuse or a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that. And that's the one that I like. And but that's cool that, you get one that's, kind of unique to itself. And I think that's a big plus in your baits.
It is, and it again, it is unique in a way that some of them you couldn't tell the difference by looking at them. But when I get to painting these things, I may paint three exactly alike. I said, man, I'm going to put an orange throat on this one in place of a yellow throat, and so I play with it, and it makes a difference. And you said something I think is extremely important, and I've been at it a long time. Having confidence in a lure means everything in the world. And you've done this. You go out and you're fishing with a new lure, and you're looking and thinking about somewhere else, and you're just halfway throwing it, and you're not hitting the target. But if you got a good lure that you've caught a lot of fish on, you take your time, and every wiggle it makes, you throw it right in against that brush pile. You work at it, and that's why you catch fish. So confidence is a big thing, and that's why we have resale. I had a guy the other day from Georgia. You may have seen it on our web. He bought 60 lures of one style. Yeah, and I thought, what in the world are you going to do? But he loves them. And he bought 60 of one style. And I just thought that was so unique. But he had confidence in them. I can assure you that.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Wayne, we got a few minutes left here. And there's something that I wanted to talk a little bit unrelated to your company, but related to bass fishing is that, and Sheila told me this, that you started one of the very first bass clubs here in Tennessee back in, I think you told me it was the late 60s. And I go back to Bass Club Fishing Federation back to like later 70s, 78, 79. And then fished my first invitational, Bassmaster Invitational, in 1981 or 82. So I thought that was pretty cool until I learned, man, all this stuff back in the 60s was so cool, in the early 70s. And I'm kind of a history buff of bass fishing, and you are a pretty big wealth of bass fishing knowledge too from way back.
Yes, Mike, that the guy that taught me how to fish, his name was Don Carter. He lived here in Greenville, Tennessee. One of the best friends, if not the best friend I've ever had. We fished, I think I counted one time, in 16 different states, and that was before it was popular. He bought one of Forrest Wood's first bass boats before they even had a cap on them. They had a little rim around the top and had rough fiberglass in the middle. He paid my entry fee to a Bass Angler Sportsman Society, and a lot of young ones don't know about that, but that's where bass come from. That's the acronym for Bass Angler Sportsman Society. Ray Scott started it. I think it was in 67. Don paid my way, and he fished in it in 68 at Lake Eufaula, Alabama. Well, we ran into Ray Scott there, and he wanted to start bass chapters, and every fishing community in America had that dream, like he did about bass fishing. So Don said, this is the guy you need to talk to. So I come back to Greenville, Tennessee, and back then we didn't have probably a half a dozen people that strictly bass fish. Most people striped fish, crappie fish, catfish. And so one day walking down the sidewalk, I had a friend of mine eating lunch at a diner, and I walked in and I said, we're going to start a bass club. He said, a what? And I said, a bass club. You're going to be the secretary treasurer, and I'm going to be the president. To make a long story short, we created what Ray Scott sent a letter of the first bass club in Tennessee. It was called the Pro Bass Masters of Greene County. And since then, over the years, I heard that maybe there could have been one in Chattanooga before we created this one. But they were a chapter of Bass, and in order to be in them, you had to be a member of Bass. And it was $10 a year, and you got a magazine and all the stuff. And it's a lot of stuff you got free. But the fact is that, yes, we did start the first bass club, got it started here in Greenville, Tennessee. It's my understanding, again, that according to Ray Scott, I've got a letter back somewhere in the files that Ray sent us congratulating us on being the first chapter of Bass in the state of Tennessee.
That's really cool. Because that's how I, started. I was just a little kid going in the tackle shop, and, back when, you had spinnerbaits and plastic worms to fish with and a few crankbaits hanging on the wall. And the guys that ran the tackle shop said, hey, you ever, fish in a bass club? And I didn't know bass club. What's that? And back then they had junior clubs too. So that's how I started. Got in the junior club and learned from those guys and graduated into the adult club. And then one of those guys got me to drag me along to Fishing Invitational, and 40 years later, I'm still doing it. So that's really cool. And it's just, that history of the sport. I think a lot of the younger kids, need to know that, and I do run into, quite a few of them that are interested in that. But, with YouTube and the internet and all this other stuff now, it's that whole attention span thing. Looking at the old stuff is really cool, I think.
It is, and the history, one of the most amazing things to me, and I used to own Tennessee Valley Marine here in Greenville, Tennessee, which is a marine dealer, and I had Evinrude motors and skeeter boats and so on and so forth, just like Sheila's doing now. But it had grown so much to the point that I was able to open that business up back in the late 70s. And then since then, it's grown. I got $8,000 worth of electronics on my boat. I put on about 3 years ago, and they're already outdated. I mean, they really are. And there's so much going on in the business now, and high school clubs and college clubs. But the beauty of the whole thing is this, and this lure business I do, it's a hobby. I don't do it for the money as much as I do for the relaxation. But the fact is that I am so pleased to see this happen, because it's keeping kids out of trouble. And I would much rather have my child. I told a neighbor one day, I said, I think it's the finest sport you can get a child in, because they learn discipline. They learn they got to do their homework before they go. They got to learn about their equipment. And when they get out on the water, it's them and the fish. They don't have to compete against anyone or anybody and make them mad under that old big bass. And so I think it's a wonderful sport. I really do. And I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Awesome. And we need to make a chance to get a chance here in the spring. Maybe when you slow down, I slow down a little bit. We'll get together. We'll go out there and sling some baits around and see if we can catch a fish and tell some stories of the years past. I'd really enjoy doing that with you.
We can do that. I'll tell you one quick one before we go. When we went to Eufaula, we ran into, and I talked to Jimmy Houston about this one day. We had Stan Sloan and Bill Adar, which owns Oro Bait Company, was selling spinner baits out of the back of a pickup truck. And Johnny Morris was there in a station wagon selling baits. Now, that's before we had all the Walmarts and all the Bass Pro Shops and all that stuff. So that's how far they've come since those days. So anyway, we'll talk about that in depth someday.
Awesome. And one more time, website?
Wayneos.com, Wayneos, without the apostrophe.com. Pull it up, look at them. It's real easy to order. Credit cards, any way you want to pay for them. If you don't have the money, call me and I'll give them to you. It's that simple.
Awesome, Wayne. Nice talking to you, my friend. We'll see you down the road here. And thanks for coming on the Outdoor Showcase here Friday night. There he goes. Wayne Bettis, Wayneo's Custom Baits. I'm Mike Del Visco. Moving right along. We have another guy coming up here in just a minute. We got Shane from Enigma Fishing. And I really am excited to talk to this guy. We run into each other traveling around the country at shows, and I really get a chance to chat with him. He's so busy, I'm so busy, but we got him live right here in the Showcase. And you're down in Florida right now. I was there 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, I think 2 weeks ago, for the Bassmaster Southern Open. And I got spoiled. It was like 75 degrees down there every day. It was gorgeous. It was cold back here at the house. And
it's hard not to get spoiled here. Everywhere else I go, they're wondering why I'm there, especially with traveling, doing shows. When we had shows last year, we did 21 expos, January through March, and being gone every weekend, sometimes 2 different places, is show after show. And you get into Chicago, negative 58 wind chill factor, in New York, and then the snow in Minneapolis, the ice. And I'm grateful always to return to Florida. I feel bad talking about it to the guys where I'm at. Like, I got to go home to Florida. They're like, well, they're pretty frustrated about that.
Yeah, well, they could do something about it too. So I've been on that other end, traveling around doing shows in seminars in Iowa in the middle of January when it's 40 below zero, and it's nice to get to get. It was really nice a couple weeks ago to get to go to Florida. Typically, I miss that first Bassmaster tournament down there because I'm booked doing something else, but I was able to sneak in off the waiting list this year. And our next one is coming up here in about less than a month, right here on Douglas Lake where I live. So looking forward to that.
That's a good lake.
Enough about that. I want to see what you got going on down there in Florida with Enigma.
Well, our main fulfillment center, our warehouse is in Tennessee. So we have housed a lot of product here. I got a little bit. I'll move over just to show you a little rack that I provided here with some of our different model rods on it. I wanted to walk through and tell you guys about. But anybody in the Tennessee area that's gone to Sheila Bunch's shows, the East Tennessee Fishing Show, and I no matter where I'm at, I always tell everybody that's the best show I've ever been a part of. She's a wonderful woman, great at what she does, and she really makes sure that show is good for everybody who comes. And even then, she couldn't have it. Look what she's been doing virtually shows and putting this on too as well with Pride Network and everything. So she's that type of person. Really grateful to be a part of everything she has going on. So in Tennessee, if you've come to that show, you've seen us. We're the ones doing the rod bend test. We're not scared to do that. Unfortunately, I have nobody here to help me with that, so I won't be putting the stress test to the rods, but rest assured that they're strong, very sensitive, great backbone, and the most important thing, a good price point. So, we're a little different company. The owner and has been around fishing the elites for 3 years now, and we had some of the high names in the industry with us. I won't go into too much about who it was. A lot of you guys know how Enigma started, how we came about, and who came over with us, and that was the big deal was who was Enigma and why Aaron leave Megabass after 17 years. That was it. So he was with us. We were fortunate to have him with us for 5 or 6 years until his venture to MLF and things changed. But the rods that we design are definitely by fishermen for fishermen. So this is our HPT series lineup. It's a 34 40-ton Tory graphite blank. We use real Portuguese cork on all our rods, so that's a really nice thing. It's solid cork. It's not going to chip away. And a lot of the things that I can tell you guys I've learned in the shows, I've learned from the elite pros, the MLF pros, things that matter to them, that you can get a $300 rod and find imitation cork, whereas you can get our price point quality rod and it's real solid cork. We've ran through a lot of different guide systems, everything from American Tackles to Fuji's, and we're using Alps guides now. We really like the Alps guides. I have minimal issues with the guides, almost non-existent with inserts popping out. I mean, we have our lineup right now, guys, on our rods right where we want it. If people keep asking us when we're going to make another rod, and we are in the works with that, but we have it so perfected that we're happy with where everything's at. So a couple of different things I'll show you is one is the Enigma Green Phenom. And 5 or almost 6 years ago, this was the first green Phenom to come out. You see a lot of green in the industry now, but that was the Enigma signature color. All the specifications are on our rods, so you can see if it's a 611 medium, dart heads, small jigs, Senkos. We'll give you some recommendations on what they were made for, the actions, the tapers, the tips, everything that is designed to really throw and get the best out of the baits that we recommend. Line ratio, lure ratio, all that's on there as well. Size 5 guides, we're not using micros. Micros are series 3s. We're a couple steps up, so if you're tying your different type of braids to your leader knots, they go through the guides, no problem at all. A couple things about our company. One, we've been around for almost 6 years, maybe just a little more than 6 years. We have a really good warranty. It's a lifetime warranty, and how that works is your rods and reels are covered free for the first year. You don't have to buy a warranty. You don't have to buy into the warranty. When you buy a rod, everything's covered. It comes with the warranty. So if you have a break, normal break and wear and tear, all you got to do is reach out to us, submit a warranty claim online. Everything's very easy. We don't even ask you to ship the rod back. We're not going to have you waste your time, waste your money shipping something to us that we're going to replace. We're not trying to determine how it broke to tell you it was your fault or the whole rigmarole that some companies do. I mean, as scary as it is, and I've had people wonder why we do it, we put on here car doors, ceiling fans, hatches, running it over in the driveway. We understand all that happened. I don't think you'll get that from many other places out there. But we do stand behind the product, and all you're going to do is do a warranty claim, and we're going to process your claim. We're going to email you an invoice for shipping. You pay that, and it ships out the next day. It's that easy. If it's over a year, it's a $39.99 replacement fee for all your rods and reels. Reels have the same warranty. Pretty interesting in the industry to have a warranty like that on reels. So a couple things about our reels, guys. I appreciate the time to be on the show and kind of go over some product with you guys. So we have the spool speed or the high speed bearings. If you can hear that, it sounds a little different than your normal reel. And it's got Scott's bearings, spool speeds or high speed bearings in there, ceramics standard. So you got a carbon fiber handle, aluminum spool, ceramic bearings, and it weighs 5.9 ounces with the warranty. And the price point's only $129.97. So really quality product, really affordable price. The rods that we have, guys, are nothing over $150. It's anywhere from $99.97 to $109.97 to $119.97 to $129, $139, and $149 being the highest series rod, which would be if it's a 7.6 or heavier. So this is your 7.6 extra heavy flipping and punching stick. That's going to be $139, and in the EPON series, it'd be $149. So a little information about the rods. The EPON series and the HPT series are the same blank. If you were to go on our website and you want to order a rod and you wanted a 7.6 heavy and it's not available in the EPON and it's available in HPT, you can get it. It's the same blank. The difference is the handle grips. So guys who used to use, I won't name many names, but rods with cork handles, more expensive rods with cork handles, they gravitate towards the HPT series. I've seen a lot of people leave the mentality of spending $400 or $500 on a rod to come get this HPT series for $150, and it's got the cork handles. It feels good. It's split grip. It's got an extra exposure to the blank for extra sensitivity. Nothing comes back past your elbow, so it's not going to get caught in your jacket when you're fishing. It's designed for tournament style fishing, and of course you can use it for other things. I got guys that use our spinning gears for walleye, red fishing in Louisiana. I mean, they do a lot of all different types of targeted species.
That's awesome.
So,
hey, Shane, real quick. So Andre has got a question, and Andre might be one of our biggest fans. I'm still waiting for my crab cakes. He's from out there in Maryland. But he's talking about what type of braking system does the reel have? Obviously, it's got a regular cast control. Is it magnetic or centrifugal or a combination of both?
Yeah, good question, Andre. And when you mentioned the crab cakes, I got some in my freezer that's right here to the left that I got from the Rockford County Rockland Community Show. And he gave me a box of crab cakes. I've yet to cook them, but I'm dying to. I don't know if I can get it the way they cook it at the show because it tastes so good all the time. I'm just hoping that I can. So all our reels are magnetic brakes except the torch. The torch is a centrifugal. So we have a dual braking system. This is our EPON series. It's the IP100, and it's a color-coded gear ratio. So this is your black 6:6:1. It's going to be your lower retrieve, and we have them in right hand. We have them in left hand. So you have your 27-point adjustable magnetic brake system right here, all the way from 0 up to 5, and just like a clock, from 1 to 5. 1 to 2 would be 5, so it's 5, 10, 15. So that's your brakes right there. You have your spool tensioner, which is right here. So it's almost like a dual braking system. If you don't cast with bait casters, you're not used to doing it, and you don't want a backlash, theoretically, you can put this all the way up to 25 and put your spool tensioner in the right spot, push the button, get a little lob, not put your thumb on it at all, and it hit the ground and not backlash. That's the magnetic braking system. And as you back off, you figure out where the best setting is for you. Jesse, the owner, he sets all of his on 0. If I'm not careful and I pick up a reel or his rod during the boat and make a cast, I can backlash the very first cast and mess the whole thing up. I like to be around 2 to 3. That's where I'm at. So that's comfortable for me. I recommend guys do that. The main thing is to tighten the spool tensioner, and when you drop that, put your thumb on that and drop and open that free spool, you want your lure just to kind of drop slow, not fast, and not at all. So you kind of dialed in the cast for you. So the color-coded gear ratio we did for the reels was for guys that have 10 or 15 rods on the front of their boat. They got their cranking rods, they got their jig rods, they got their top water rods. Well, they can look down and be like, it's my white reel, it's my black reel, or it's my gunmetal gray reel, 7-3-1, 8-1-1, or 6-1-1. Pretty cool, pretty simple. But the centrifugal reel is the torch. I don't have the torch here because I actually didn't bring one over from the warehouse for this show. It's a great reel. It's an 8-1-1. It's very fast. It's a great price point. Centrifugal, you take you take this part off here, and I'm sure Andre knows about it. And then it's like disc brakes. You kind of click them on, you click them off, click them on, click them off. So it's one on, one off, one on, one off. Some guys do 3 on, 3 off. Some guys leave them all off. It's a great reel, very fast. And it took me about a week to learn how to dial that one in myself.
Cool. And that's a great thing with the color coded, gear ratios too, because if you get guys that have just a mixture of different things and different reels, they can easily grab and easily rig up exactly what they want, so they're not looking around for stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And we have great spinning lineup, guys. We got our Epon series spinning. It's all graphite. We got our Pesco, which is graphite composite body. They got chamfered spools, so you can go straight braid, no backing. It's not going to have any slip. I mean, it's skeletonized, so it's cut out. It's really light. It's high performance, quality spinning reels for an affordable price. This is our Valkyrie reel. It's a real great reel, 17-pound drag, whereas the other ones are 20-pound drag, all the way up to 22 and 24-pound drag in your spinning. A great entry-level reel for $69. I haven't mentioned the website yet, but of course it's www.enigmafishing.com. Enigmafishing.com. Guys, all the products that I'm showing you, you can go on. We are doing a sale for the rest of March. It's buy 2, get 1 free. So you can go over to the website, get 2 reels, get a third, get 2 rods, get a third rod. You're going to buy 2 and get the third of equal or lesser value free. And we're doing that for the show, for this show, for the rest of the shows that we can't be at. And they won't last long, I can guarantee you that. But enigmafishing.com. And we got other tools and things you can look at as well. But if you're looking for some new gear with a great warranty and good customer service, I handle customer service. So when you make a phone call to the company, you're going to talk to me. If you get an email in certain departments, I'm going to be the one to respond back to you. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking with the people. I really enjoy making sure people get responded to and treated right. And if you leave a message, that someone gets back to you. If no one answers, if someone calls you back, things that you can't find these days, especially with COVID and the phone calls and getting customer service is almost non-existent out there. It's frustrating.
Awesome.
We want to do everything opposite of that.
Awesome. And I've got a question too, because it's probably one of the most asked questions that I get traveling around the country, whether it's seminars or shows or events. What if I had like one rod to buy? What action, what length would you recommend?
See, I always do that, and I always end up milking our inventory. It's like, why we're always out of this rod? Why? Well, I always recommend that's the rod for everybody. We got to order like 3 times that much. We got to make 500 instead of 3. But you can't go wrong with the 7-foot medium heavy. You can't.
Yeah.
A casting rod, a spinning rod. It's a workhorse rod. It depends. Like if you're using spinning gear and you want to throw a swim jig, you want to throw a top water, you want to throw a spinnerbait, you want to throw a Carolina rig or even some live bait, whatever you're doing, that 7-foot medium heavy is really going to be good. If you want a little bit of fun and backbone and you're throwing a lot of Senkos or little jigs or little spinnerbaits, the straight medium would be okay. The difference I find when I need to set the hook with a medium compared to a medium heavy, the extra backbone gets the Texas rigs and that type of hook in the mouth more. I give it another hook set or 2 on my way in, but I have had the fish spit the hook out before it gets to me on occasions, and I do believe that's because it's the right action tool for the techniques you're using. Right. So for guys who aren't really just wanting to get into it or needing a rod, you could get the 7-foot medium heavy, the 7.3 medium heavy. The 7.6 medium heavy is on a flip and stick blank, so it's a little hybrid rod we made, but it's incredible. In fact, John Murray and Aaron were both throwing the 7.6 medium heavy Epon, the very first MLF that happened, the Bass Pro Tour for John, and that was a 1/2 ounce blade bait. They recommended it. They said it was great for a 1/2 ounce blade bait. They were ripping it. They were doing really well with it. It's good for top water. It's an all-around kind of all-purpose rod. The medium heavies.
Awesome. And we got just about 1 minute left, Shane. Again, website, enigmafishing.com. I'm on it right now. I'm looking at it. It's a real clean-looking website, real easy to find everything. Got all the products there with great explanations and really nice-looking, sharp website.
Yep. Yeah, if you click on a photo of a product, you scroll down, it's going to tell you all the recommendations at the bottom. You click in the corner on the top, it's going to have warranty, contact us, shop, different rods, reels. Any questions, guys, the customer service number comes to me. It says 9 to 5. I am guilty of answering the phone into the night and on the weekends. So that's just how I am. Call if you have any questions. If you need help ordering, give us a call. They're doing free stickers and free shirts on top of buy two, get one free. A lot of cool things going on the website right now. Definitely check us out. Appreciate you guys' time and look forward to seeing you at the next show in East Tennessee next January, hopefully.
Awesome, Shane. Always a pleasure to have you here. And thank you for being on the Outdoor Showcase here live Friday night.
Yep, Mike, appreciate it.
Enjoy your nice weather in Florida this weekend. Get out there and catch some fish. Probably going to rain all weekend here in East Tennessee.
I will definitely try. Gentlemen, Mike, you have a good night. Everybody, thanks for listening and watching.
All right, there he goes. Shane with Enigma Fishing. I think we need to drag Sheila back in here for a minute for our last guest. I hope she's still there. She might not be there. Or she might be there. Well, anyway, if she comes back in, we'll drag her back in for a minute. I'm really excited about this next guy. I've known him forever. I just got a communique from producer Ray. No, she is, and she might be out mowing the lawn. Or there she is. Maybe we are feeding the deer again. I'm really excited about this next guy. I've known him forever. I just got a communique from producer Ray. No, she is, and she might be out mowing the lawn. Or there she is. Maybe we are feeding the deer again.
No, actually, I was listening. I was listening and I was watching.
There you go, Sheila. There you go. What? Yeah, we were wondering where you were. I thought I'd drag you back in here for our last guest, and we've had a great show so far. Wayneo's from Wayneo's Custom Baits, and then Shane from Enigma Fishing. Got a lot of really cool stuff going on. And this next
Can I tell you a quick story about Shane?
Yeah.
Enigma. The first year they were at the East Tennessee Fishing Show. Okay. I normally talk to all the vendors beforehand. I try to prepare them for what they're getting ready to be a part of. I had talked to Shane and I told him to come prepared. He sold out of products.
I think I remember that.
He sold out of products, I think, by Saturday. And he come to me and he said, I'm sold out. I said, next year you think ahead. I told you, this show is all about fishermen.
Yeah, Sheila, you don't mess around. That's one thing I've learned in 10 years.
So I hope he's still watching, and I hope he remembers that.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he was prepared every single time after that.
Yes, he was. So tell me a little bit more about our next guest, because see, I have not met this man. I don't think I have met this man.
See, I'm almost positive I've seen him walking around your show. He's pretty low profile. He keeps a low profile when he's walking around. I know him because I've known him forever. He's one of the most. He's a fascinating dude. He knows a lot about not only the fishing tackle industry, from Fishing Tackle Retailer magazine, but also the history in the sport of bass fishing, because he was the editor of Bassmaster magazine for quite a long time, and I'd never had a chance to fish with him, but I think it would be really cool because I think we tell more stories than we would catch fish. But Ken Duke he's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. There he is right there. Also from Florida. We got the Florida gang in here tonight. And Ken, welcome to the Outdoor Showcase presented by the East Tennessee Fishing Show live Friday night. It's a pleasure having you on.
Sheila and Mike, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And though I have not had to have the privilege of attending the East Tennessee Fishing Show, I look forward to doing that next time around.
Show dates are January the 20th through the 23rd of 2022.
I have just written that down, Sheila, so I'm going to make that happen because I've heard nothing but great stuff about the East Tennessee Fishing Show. And, you've just showed me Enigma is there. I was there, ironically, at the very beginning of Enigma when that company was just getting started. And their slogan, cast, catch, repeat, I came up with that. It's my slogan. Did I get even one free rod out of it? No, I did not.
So, Shane, I hope you're still watching.
Yeah, Shane, come on, Shane. You and I are buddies. Come on now.
and Andre chimed in right away. He says, Mr. Trivia, can't stump that guy. And I did not say a word to anybody about what you and I talked about, Ken, earlier. But yeah, you are Mr. Trivia when it comes to bass fishing. And
I tell folks all the time, Mike, it was a misspent youth followed by a misspent middle age and now a misspent old age. I've spent a lot of time studying bass fishing and tournaments and history and things like that. It's really been the biggest chunk of my life, I guess. I've done a few other things other than work in the tackle industry. I was a lawyer for a while, but the fishing industry is what I love.
See, I didn't know that either. We had you and I don't know if you remember this, and I don't know how long ago it was. We were at an event or a show or something together, and we're walking down the street, and somehow we get into the conversation of state record bass, and we got into talking about the state record bass from Massachusetts, and you said, yeah, it was 15 pounds, and I think it's
15.8. It's Walter Balonis from 1975.
Caught it in Sampson Pond and Carver on a night crawler.
Through the ice.
How about
that?
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about a Massachusetts bass being that big. And Mike, I think you and I were having that conversation because I had just talked to a very well-known bass pro who had told me that if he ever won a big enough tournament to retire, his goal was to then move around the country and break each state record. And I told him, A, he was out of his mind because he would never do it even one time probably. And B, I wanted him to start in Massachusetts, where I figured he would spend the rest of his days trying to break that mark. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know the last time an actual state record bass was broke.
It hasn't happened. It hasn't been that long ago. I mean, state records do fall every year or two. As a matter of fact, I think we've got a brand new smallmouth record that's been applied for in a state recently. But it doesn't happen as much as you might think, but it does happen. And they fell like dominoes in the late 80s, early 90s after a lot of states had stocked Florida bass around the country, and they had introduced those Florida genetics to the mix. Not to bore the readers, I'm kind of a lay scientist. I don't have a degree in biology or anything. My education is in law and English and political science. But when you combine those Florida bass genetics with a northern bass genetics, and you get what they call an F1, first generation intergrade, that's the one that explodes. That's the one that can grow to record proportion. If you're in California and you have trout, or as my friend Bill Siementel calls them, vitamin T, then the bass can grow to world record proportions. But even in other states, they'll become much larger. The Texas record, for example, was 13.5 pounds for decades and decades and decades. And then in the 70s, they introduced Florida bass into a few lakes, and that record got eclipsed. And now there have been over 1,000 bass, I think, caught that would break the record that had been the top Texas mark from like 1943 until the 80s. So Florida bass are the magic thing. I actually live about an hour from the Florida Bass Conservation Center, where they guard and protect, and in some cases even ship those genetics to other places.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's cool.
That's how you grow a record, Sheila. You get Florida bass in there, and then things happen.
So we need to bring the Florida bass to Tennessee.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, of course that'll help your largemouth, and it's been done in Tennessee. And I would expect Tennessee to break its record in the next few years. But of course, Tennessee, Kentucky, you guys have the biggest smallmouth bass in the world, including the existing world record of 1115 from Dale Hollow.
I'm going there tomorrow.
July 9th. Yeah, July 9th, 1955, by David Hayes, who passed away just last year, I think. He was 95 years old. And I had a chance to visit with Mr. Hayes a long time ago. I was I'll blow my horn a little bit here, but I was part of getting his record reinstated. He held the world record from 1955 to 1995, 40 years. And then a Tennessee school teacher decided to go after it and attack it on the basis of whether it was a legit record. And he found somebody who would lie. He found somebody who lied about tampering with that fish. And for 10 years, from 1995 to 2005, the fish was knocked out of the record books by IGFA and other record-keeping organizations. And then in 2005, I was senior editor of Bass Publications at the time. I came to Tennessee. I met with some of the authorities there. I learned a whole lot about the world record and the possibility of tampering with such a fish. And we were able to get the fish reinstated in late 2005.
Awesome.
But there's no place for big smallmouth bass that can compete with Dale Hollow Lake.
I will be there tomorrow.
Oh, man, I envy you.
Yeah, we've got a Major League Fishing event starting Wednesday, so I will be there. I love that place. The only problem with going there and trying to fish a tournament is I can't really go smallmouth fishing. You can only have one. They have the creel size limit, and they've got to be under 16 but not touching 16, over 21 but not touching 21, and you're only allowed 2. So, I mean, if I catch a big giant bag of largemouth, I may go and try to catch a 7 or 8 pound smallmouth. But you catch so many 20 and 3/4 inchers that are 5 pounds, and you got to throw them back. It's awful, but it is
amazing.
It's one of the most beautiful lakes I've ever fished in my life.
It's gorgeous for folks watching who haven't been there. It's almost totally unspoiled. You know, you think about a big lake has a lot of houses on it and things like that. No. There is no bill except for half a dozen 8 marinas on the lake. There is nothing within 75 vertical feet of the water at full pool. So there's nothing on the lake. You're just looking at these gorgeous slate rock banks and these points. And I tell people it looks like a postcard that one bass would send to another. You know, this is what smallmouth habitat is right here. And to Mike's point, yeah, you can run up the river and you can get into some really big largemouth as well.
Yeah.
And there are lots of spots.
Yeah. It's a remarkably good largemouth lake. And I didn't, there's spots in it too, but I think I've only caught one in my life, but I've seen pictures of some real big ones. So
they got walleye, they got muskie, they got rainbow trout. Yeah. There's almost nothing they don't have at Dale Hollow. I used to go up every winter and float and fly fish. For anybody who's familiar with that technique, it doesn't involve a raft. It doesn't involve a fly rod. It's a long spinning rod and a big 12-foot leader and what looks like a crappie jig, but it's got a bass hook in it, and it's the coolest way to catch a big smallmouth you can imagine in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm. We've got I don't know if you're familiar with Nathan Light, but he's done a ton of shows and seminars and stuff, and he does one on tight lining, which is a very, very similar type technique, and without the 12-foot rod, but very similar that he uses in the wintertime for those smallmouth bass too. So it's just a great place. I can't wait to go back there tomorrow morning. So Ken, let's see. We got Andre chiming in here, and he said you'll know what this means about the color of a Ned head was. Ask him what Ned head go-to color Ned head was. He says you'll know what he means. How many fish he caught in an hour?
Oh, well, he's probably talking about Ned Cady. Ned Cady is the namesake.
Yeah, Ned Cady.
Yeah, Ned Cady is the namesake of the Ned rig. Now, Ned Cady is a wonderful guy who lives in Lawrence, Kansas. Ned's about 80 years old now, but Ned's background is fascinating. Not only was he a librarian and historian for the University of Kansas there in Lawrence, but he's a very avid fisherman and a terrific outdoor writer. And Ned had the great good fortune to grow up in the Midwest, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, that part of the world where finesse fishing was really born, where guys got really serious about the spinning rod, light line, and the kind of finesse tactics that were necessary to catch fish in those deep clear water lakes that they have around there. So Ned came up hanging around guys like Guido Hibden and people like that who were really the forerunners of finesse. And because Ned told that story so many times and told it from the perspective of some of these guys who developed the techniques, and because Ned was one of the guys developing those techniques, the thing took on his name a few years ago. And now everybody calls it a Ned rig. Ned never referred to it as Ned rig. He calls it Midwest finesse fishing. But the rest of us all call it the Ned rig, and we have Ned Cady really to thank for helping to popularize it, especially in the pages of In Fisherman magazine. Great publication.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, the term Ned for us being a Massachusetts born person, we call that a largemouth bass. It's a Ned. So
Ned, okay.
Ned the head being largemouth bass, big head, and smallmouth being smallmouth, obviously. But that was our kind of terminology for that. That was way before I ever fished with one of those Ned heads.
I like it. Well, going back to Andre's point, though, he was talking about the color of the Ned head.
Right.
I don't know what color Ned fishes most often, so I failed Andre's test here. But I would like to tell everybody that Ned uses a lot of those Z-Man Ned baits. Okay. And what he loves to do, Ned goes out and fishes more days than not there at his home in Kansas. And when he goes, his goal is not to catch a big fish. I don't think they have a lot of big fish out in that part of in areas where Ned fishes a lot, but his goal is to catch 100 per hour if he can do it. And what he does is he'll take one bait, Sheila, one individual bait out of that Z-Man package, and he'll see how many fish he can catch on one bait. And if he tops 100 on one bait, which he does quite regularly, he will put that thing in the mail to Daniel Nussbaum and Glenn Young over at Z-Man and say, hey, this one caught 213 or something like that. And Ned will fish those things until they are falling off the hook. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. And Andre chimed in, light blue was the color.
Andre's really into fishing.
Yeah.
Apparently, Andre has whipped me. Andre, you win.
Yeah. Yeah. Ken, I don't know if you've ever gone fishing in Maine before, but so I go to a place. It's a wonderful place on the East Pond, Belgrade Channel Lakes, called Alden Camps, and I've been going there forever. We've hosted the LL Bean people there before, with new products and, showing them and taking them out fishing, and the Kittery Trading Post guys too, for you guys up in Maine. And I go there now every year for 2 weeks. And the first time I ever brought one of those Neds up there, the lake is low. It's got so many fish in it, they're falling out. That's how many fish are in this lake. And you'll catch 100 every single day you're there and never catch the same fish twice. And the record for one day for me and one other guy was 180 some odd fish.
That's fantastic, Mike.
And I don't know how many, and they're not all giants, some a pound and a half, you'll catch some 3-pounders, but it's just silly with fish. And I forget how many I caught on one of those stretchy worms. It looked like Swiss cheese. You could pull it and stretch it and look through it and and see the other side of the lake. That's how many we caught on it. But
what a great bait! What a great technique! I say this about Z-Man all the time. They don't make any junk. They're so good. They're so smart. I really admire Daniel Nussbaum, Glenn Young, the folks at that company. I really have a lot of regard for the products they make. Everything they put their name on catches fish.
Yeah. And, we've only got a couple more minutes. I should have just had you on for the whole hour, and we could have just talked about bass fishing trivia and the tackle industry. But, your most recent assignment here, you're the editor of Fishing Tackle Retailer, which is a great resource of information in the fishing tackle industry, and there it is right there. And
how embarrassing, Mike and Sheila. I reached for the wrong side of the shirt at first. I'm all disoriented looking at my picture on the screen.
Well, that's okay, but we actually, the Fishing Show actually does a lot of advertising with you.
Yes, you do. We appreciate the support you show us, Sheila, very much, and we hope it's reciprocated. We know we're reaching the bulk of the retail market out there, and we hope we're sending a whole lot of folks to your show. It sounds like that's happening because your show is so.
Well, the one thing I look forward to is getting my magazine. I love my magazine.
Keep telling my bosses that, so they keep me informed.
I love my magazine. When I get I throw all the other mail aside and I just sit and look at my magazine.
I like it. I love your attitude, Sheila. You're one of my favorite people now. Even though we haven't had a chance.
Well, you guys just keep doing what you're doing, because seriously, I love my magazine. That is a world of information.
Well, you know what? I am running on fumes today because just yesterday we sent our April issue to the printer. So get ready for the April issue. It's coming your way. Got a story in there I'm kind of excited about. It's all about how retailers may have an opportunity to exploit a carp market out there. We have carp in almost every state, and not a lot of people target them, but you can catch them on bass tackle. You use other baits, but you can catch them on bass tackle, and they can be a lot of fun. But I'm a bass guy. I'm going to go out there and chase bass most every chance I get.
So Ken, I have a carp story that relates to bass.
Just so Mike you have a story about everything. I've learned that about you.
Just so happens I have one of these. So if you remember, I think it was probably 8 or 9 years ago, we had a cicada hatch here in East Tennessee. And I was up at a lake called Boone Lake, which they have since drained. They're working on the dam. It's been low for a number of years, and I think they're finally finishing it. And I was with one of the I'm sponsored by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, have been for 20 years. And I was visiting a store and taking the operator's kids fishing. I did it every year. His kids were like 8 and 10 years old. Had a blast fishing with them on Boone Lake. And we usually go bass fishing. And when we got there at the lake, I did not know this cicada hatch was going around. And these things, they don't fly very well. They fly up in the air, they spin around, they bounce off of stuff, and they land in the water, and then they just flitter like this, and then something comes and eats them. The bass were eating them, the smallmouth were eating them, but these giant carp would come up, and they would just boil on them and suck them off the top of the water, and it was so much fun. And I said, man, that would be so cool to catch a carp. We're going to forget these bass. I catch these things all the time. Let's go catch a few carp. So I said, what do I have in my tackle box that I can throw that looks like a cicada? Because you can't put a cicada on a hook and throw it. It's like throwing a potato chip. So I've had a box of Gary Yamamoto hula grubs. And I took the hula grub and I took a cicada and I matched it. It was a little purple, little green pumpkin, little perfect color. And I put it on a hook with no head and I threw it out there about 25 feet and let it sit on top of the water and shook it like a topwater. And these giant carp would come up and eat it and just blow up on it every time. It was the most fun I've ever had fishing. I'll never forget it. The kids had a blast. I had a blast. I guess we got to wait another, 75 years for more cicadas to come out of the ground or something like that. You probably know how often they come out. So
I have no idea, but I'll tell you what, that's a great example of what a world-class fisherman can do in a situation. A guy like Mike Delvisco can concoct something with a couple of feet of masking tape and a stick of gum. Mike Delvisco will figure out a way to catch a fish, and it doesn't matter if it's a bass or a carp or whatever it is. He's going to figure out a way.
It was fun. So if we got any carp fishermen out there, they do like Yamamoto hula grubs. So give them the cicadas are hatching.
That's a great story, man. I've been in similar situations where I've got all my bass gear, but something else is just tearing it up, and I've not generally been able to put it together to figure out a way to catch those things. But it's good to see that my brother Mike has successfully solved the equation. I like it.
So Andre says this is the year for the cicadas again. 17 years. Now that wasn't 17 years ago, but okay. So here's the deal, Ken. If they come out and they're swarming all over here in East Tennessee, and you can make it here to my house, come on up. And we'll shoot a carp fishing seminar with bass gear and do a story on it. How's that?
Back at you, man. Come on down to Florida, or as I like to call it, America, where it's always warm and there's a topwater bite 360 days a year, Mike. Come on down. We're going to go bass fishing down here.
Awesome. Ken, always a pleasure. We could have talked the whole hour. We need to try to do this again at some point, and I know I'll see you down the road somewhere.
I'll catch y'all at some point down the road. I'm looking forward to coming to the East Tennessee Fishing Show next year, January 20th through the 23rd, Sheila. Don't look it up. I know it now. And I'm looking forward to that. So thank you both for having me on the program. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken, very much.
There he goes. Awesome guy to talk to. We could have talked to him for the whole hour. We need to get him back on.
Well, you know, he's you heard what he said about the fly fishing in the winter. That might be something we need to get him on for.
Absolutely. It'd be fun.
Yes.
It would be fun. Maybe you can go do that with him. I don't like fishing in the cold.
Mike, I don't like fishing in the cold. I thought you could go. All right. I'll tell you what, we'll both go.
Okay. Sounds good. Now, everybody's in suspense here. We got a special little announcement coming up, and wait until the end of the show, and we are at the end of the show. So,
well, you know, I mean, I was listening to Wayne, and he made a good point when he was talking about kids, you know, fishing, growing up fishing, and you know, keeping kids on the lake and keeping kids out of trouble and everything like that. Well, you know, summertime is all about being outside, in my opinion. And we, you know, I've had to think outside the box a little bit because it's like my whole life surrounds fishing. But in 2 weeks, we're going to do something a little different. I've got a surprise for everybody. And it's a new boat, actually. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I am going to tell you a little bit about it. It looks like a pontoon boat, in my opinion. It's quiet, and you can wake surf it behind it. And it has over 10 cup holders.
because you need those.
I know, but doesn't that sound fascinating?
Yes. So what you're trying to tell everybody, we are going to have, and everybody knows we're only 2 episodes in, but we are broadcasting live at the end of the month. Now, today is the exception. We're on Friday because they do some server maintenance on a specific day in the month. We couldn't broadcast last night live with the Pride Outdoor Network. So we're on here Friday, but every other date, I think we're good. And we will be on the last Thursday of every month. But we are going to have a special show. And that special show is going to be on
April the 13th, isn't it?
No, April the 12th.
April 12th.
Monday night.
Yes.
6 p.m. April 12th. We are going to be live with another show and more special guests. We don't know everything that's going to be on yet. We're still working out a few details, but we will be live for 2 shows in April. Monday the 12th, and then back to our regularly scheduled show in April, which will be the 29th, which is going to be an awesome, awesome show.
Can we talk a little bit about that one? Can we tell a little bit about that?
Well, maybe we'll
Mike.
So let's give out one little teaser. We're not going to tell who the vendor guests are yet.
Okay.
All I'm going to say is Mountain Man from Duck Dynasty.
Okay, and so I guess everybody just needs to watch to find out what Mountain Man's going to be doing. I know he's not going to be wake surfing.
Nope.
He's not going to be wake surfing.
He will not. That's why he's on the end of the month.
But, yeah, we're going to be introducing a new boat that, some people might be interested in because, the thing about it is summertime's coming up. And if you're not fishing, you need to be out on the lake doing something else.
Yep. So
So
boating safety show, April 12th. Regularly scheduled show, April 29th.
that sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome. Sheila, once again, a great show Friday night. I'm going to get packed up. I'm going to Dale Hollow, go fishing for the next week. So we're going to try to go catch a big old fish down there and see what happens this week.
Well, you could break the world record, okay?
I would really enjoy doing that, especially during a tournament.
That needs to be that. Yeah, okay. If you do, call me first, okay?
I will.
We'll have a special show.
Yep. And then I'll call Ken Duke.
That sounds good.
Awesome. See you in 2 weeks, Sheila.
All right. See you then, Mike.
So there she goes, Sheila Bunch. I'm Mike Del Visco. Another exciting edition here of the Outdoor Showcase presented by the East Tennessee Fishing Show. Check the website out, easttennesseefishingshow.com, and also Facebook, social media for updates. We'll probably be doing some teasers for the April 12th show, but 6 p.m. Monday, April 12th, we will be live once again. From Sheila Bunch, I'm Mike Del Visco. We'll see y'all here next time on the Outdoor Showcase.